So a government clampdown on crooked lawyers who teach illegal migrants to lie will face a dedicated task force and tougher sentences.
Yes, this task force will be made of regulatory bodies and law enforcement teams working with partners to tackle immigration abuse in the legal sector.
So let's now go to David Haigh, human rights lawyer. David, good morning. Nice to see you again.
Hi, good morning.
What do you make of this suggestion that your industry needs a task force to wheedle out the wrong uns?
Hi, good morning to both of you. I mean, I think, I was watching what Dawn said earlier, and this should already be done. You already have the police, the regulatory bodies, the Ministry of Justice, the Home Office, the National Crime Agency, and obviously people's own integrity and ethics that are professionals. Why do we need a so-called task force? But when you even look into what this task force means, it's essentially today that Suella Braverman is going to chair a meeting of interested bodies. I mean, it just seems another ineffective policy stunt to distract from that utter chaos in the asylum system at the moment.
But I couldn't agree more, and I feel like there is a lot of this going on at the moment. The more that the public become aware of how problematic the issue of illegal immigration is, it's like the higher the rhetoric and the more extreme the rhetoric from the government seems to be. But there is a problem, isn't there, as exposed brilliantly by the Daily Mail, actually, with lawyers who are working the system, are gaming the system, are lying to allow people to stay here who really do not have any legal claim to do so.
Well, absolutely. There's a significant problem in the legal industry, as in many other industries. Particularly within law. I mean, if any of your viewers and listeners now literally go onto Google and type in perjury school, they'll see a case that's going through the courts at the moment, where a leading international law firm and the head of white-collar crime has been accused of setting up a perjury school to coach witnesses in another case. So it's not just about immigration lawyers. There is a clear problem in the so-called justice system. And essentially, until it's up to the interest of people to do something about it, no one does.
This is something that people have been talking about for years. There have been allegations that there are lefty lawyers, or just lawyers in general, that are acting in a corrupt way, essentially inventing stories on behalf of their clients to allow illegal immigrants to stay in this country with bogus asylum claims. The Daily Mail managed to get 3 law firms closed with this scoop that they found. But how widespread is this practice?
I mean, in my experience and from what I've seen, it's very widespread. I mean, when I was a trainee lawyer, which is some time ago, even then, I saw immigration scams from universities. And so, that's a while ago. And like I said, it's nothing new. Suella Braverman is a lawyer. The Lord Chancellor is a lawyer. Many of the politicians are lawyers. They know the industry and the corruption in the industry, but nothing has been done effectively. And a task force and a few more meetings and some press statements is not going to change that.
David, you're a human rights lawyer. Now, some of these asylum seekers who don't want to get on the Bibi Stockholm have said that they can't go on there because they're frightened of water and their accommodation is clearly floating. Isn't that something that, well, first of all, 2 questions. How plausible is it that they can use that as an excuse to not have to get on there? But also, how did the government not see that one coming down the tracks?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. There are 2 issues there. First of all, the government should have seen these. And when I was mentioned earlier on another show last week about the fact that when you had the fire brigade union coming out and saying that this is unsafe, that was doors wide open for people to challenge people moving on to that because of that. So these were foreseeable things that should have been dealt with. Now the problem is that we've got the law that was passed by previous governments, which is the Human Rights Act, which enables these challenges. That's the problem that we've got. And in addition to that, we've got a justice system that is very, very slow. Aside from the dodgy lawyers and the corruption, it's very slow. It takes a very long time, which is why these asylum seekers get stuck, not just for days, but years and years and years. So unless that is changed, unless we speed up and invest in the justice system, invest in courts, make things faster, and then, as some people may say, change the human rights laws. I mean, I would disagree with that, but some people say that will help move these things along. You are going to get cases like that because, of course, there will be genuine people that may have seen perhaps people drown when they're crossing the channel, etc., that are suffering because they're on there. But there will also be bogus ones exploiting that.
But how do you
problem
differentiate? Sorry to interrupt you, but how can you possibly differentiate? You can't. They could all be bogus. And that might be that only 16 people ever go onto that barge because they can all use that as an excuse. What happens to those people next? I mean, we were saying the government have said, well, this is your choice. It's either the barge or nothing. So then what for those people?
Well, that's the problem that you've got, and you've got to be able to differentiate. You've got to weed out the genuine cases, which there are some, from the bogus ones, and then add to that the dodgy lawyers and all the problems that you've got. You've got a real big problem, and then it's very, very difficult. And again, because of the laws we have. But one way to achieve it is to speed up the processing of the claims, to speed up and invest in the courts and the system that we have. So even if people are bogus, we can weed them out quickly, rather than it taking years and years and years.
Well, surely it is a step in the right direction that Suella Braverman is making these announcements. She's identified this problem and is trying to do something, at least on the surface level. I'm not sure it's fair to say it's just a distraction.
I disagree with you on that, because I think, it's something that's needed to be done, but it's not new. It's not news. It's nothing new that there's been dodgy lawyers and the people that are holding this up, whether it's the gangs that are bringing them across, or the lawyers, or the slow justice system. It seems to me that it's just a bit of a distraction and playing to essentially win votes. It would be nice if they actually do something, put these policies and practices in place, and we see some results, and then issue a press release.
So, David, just to be really clear, if the rest of the asylum seekers who the authorities wish to put on the Bibi Stockholm all say, I'm frightened of water, and as you say, it's very hard to prove. What do you do? Stand them in a room with a full bath and see their reaction? Like, how do you prove that? Then that means there could be not one other person steps foot on that boat. They can all use that as an excuse.
In theory, yes, exactly. And because of where we are currently with the court system, where people are on summer breaks, even more delays. So that's why you're seeing, and I said a few days ago, like I said, I envisage people would be challenging being put on the boat on the basis of even the fact that the fire brigade union says it's unsafe.
Yeah. These lawyers are taking the mick. This is not what human rights law should be used for.
But this is
to prevent
law,
someone who's
isn't it?
taken a dinghy across the channel in treacherous conditions, maybe, put their lives at risk, and then refusing to go on a barge that happens to be floating on water because they're scared of water. It makes, it's infuriating.
But it's so interesting, though, isn't it? Because they aren't, we're talking about the dodgy lawyers who definitely exist, but the ones who are claiming about the fear of water, they're not doing anything illegal, are they, David?
No. And I think that from my side as a human rights lawyer, one of the big issues I see with this is it's turning the public against the genuine asylum seekers that genuinely need help.
Very true.
Because everyone's vilified the word asylum seeker. So the genuine one that comes over is the one that's really suffering. And they're the people we need to protect. And that's one of the problems that we've got here.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. David Haigh, human rights lawyer, thank you so much.